The Celestra spire loomed like a spear of glass and light above Haven's light, the neutral star that burned steady and eternal. The station's hull shimmered with energy veins the size of cities, pulsing with the heartbeat of galactic power. For centuries, the spire had been untouchable, a temple where no warship dared aim its cannons. Ambassador Ilara Vey paused before the towering gates of the council chamber. She steadied her breathing, smoothing the creases in her black and silver uniform. The garment was deliberately plain, designed to suggest humility without appearing weak. It was the closest thing to armor she was permitted. Her aide stood silently at her side, a tall man in unmarked attire that made him look more like a courier than a bodyguard. He carried no insignia, no obvious weapon. But when Ilara glanced at him, she caught the flicker of calculation behind his calm eyes, eyes that missed nothing. "Ready?" she asked under her breath. He inclined his head once. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his words carried a gravity that lingered. The gates split open with a groan of shifting alloys. The chamber swallowed them in gold light and 100 alien gazes. The council stretched in a circular hall large enough to house a city block. Each delegate's podium hovered above the floor on anti-grav columns, arranged in tiers that reached toward a domed ceiling swirling with projections of distant galaxies. Some pods dripped with vines, others gleamed with crystalline geometry, or pulsed with bioluminescent fluids. Every culture carved its identity into its place. Ilara's podium, placed near the lower tiers reserved for observers, was deliberately unimpressive, an exposed platform with only a thin railing. A reminder of where humanity stood, tolerated, not welcomed. The council speaker, an ancient being of translucent skin and drifting lights within its body, opened the session with a voice that resonated in every skull. "Delegates of the Concord, we convene for matters of trade, border security, and dispute resolution. Humanity has petitioned for admission to the Stellar Trade Accord. Their representative will speak." Ilara stepped forward, her heart hammering against her ribs, though her voice emerged smooth. "Honored Council, the people of Earth seek not dominance, but cooperation. We offer resources, ingenuity, and our labor in exchange for recognition as partners in this great community. Humanity has proven." A voice cut across her, sharp as broken glass. "Proven." From a gilded podium above, Chancellor Karoth Jah of the Circuith Dominion leaned forward. His scaled hide glistened like burnished bronze, his slit pupils narrowing with disdain. "Your kind has proven only its appetite for violence. The ink of your first treaties is still wet, and yet your fleets already skirmish along neutral zones. How many species must bleed before you restrain yourselves?" Murmurs rippled through the chamber, a low tide of agreement. Ilara clasped her hands behind her back. She had prepared for this. "Humanity defends itself, Chancellor. Yes, we fought when threatened, but we also rebuilt worlds shattered by plague, sent relief convoys across contested borders, and welcomed refugees when no one else would. Do not reduce us to war alone." Karoth bared his teeth, a politician's smile that promised nothing good. "Every species claims virtue when it suits them. But we, the Circuith, endured centuries to earn this chamber's respect. And you, child of a minor world, believe a few acts of charity will wash away the stench of your wars." His words hung like knives. Ilara met his gaze without blinking. "Perhaps," she said evenly, "respect is not given by centuries. Perhaps it is proven by survival, by persistence, by the refusal to vanish no matter how many dismiss us. Humanity is not asking for charity. We are demanding the chance to stand." The chamber stirred again, some pods glowing brighter, others dimming in displeasure. The speaker's lights pulsed, signaling restraint, but the damage was done. Ilara had shown teeth where most expected groveling. When the session adjourned, Ilara stepped off the platform with deliberate calm, though her pulse raced. Her aide matched her stride silently as they left the chamber's echoing corridors. The spire's vaulted halls were alive with whispers, alien eyes tracking her like hunters studying unfamiliar prey. A soft, quivering voice stopped her. "Ambassador Vey." She turned. A scholar from the Drawl Collective, a being with translucent fronds instead of arms, leaned closer. Its voice carried like wind through reeds. "You spoke bravely. But you should be cautious. There are currents moving beneath these sessions. Dangerous ones. Ilara tilted her head. Currents. Whispers, the drawl said. Of a scapegoat. A convenient enemy. Many think humanity suitable. Her stomach tightened. And who whispers the loudest? The scholar's fronds curled inward in fear. I dare not say. But remember this, not every battle here is fought with words. The being drifted away, vanishing into the glittering crowds. Ilara's aide watched silently, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke, his voice low, meant only for her. They're circling. She glanced at him. Like predators? He met her gaze without flinching. Like scavengers. They smell weakness. Her jaw tightened. She turned back toward their assigned quarters, her thoughts a storm. Humanity had come seeking partnership, but the Council's disdain was sharper than ever. Worse, the drawl's warning gnawed at her. If the galaxy needed a scapegoat, Earth would be the perfect candidate. Small enough to crush, loud enough to blame. She forced her breathing steady, though unease coiled in her chest. She had come prepared for debate. She had not come prepared for whispers of betrayal. And as she walked the endless halls of the spire, she could not shake the feeling that her aide's eyes never left the shadows ahead, as though he already knew something she did not. The Council reconvened the next cycle under the same vaulted dome. Light cascaded from the ceiling in shifting patterns of nebulae, meant to symbolize harmony, but to Ilara it felt more like a spotlight on prey. She stood once again at her modest platform, her aide a silent shadow behind her. The speaker's body flickered with pale luminescence as the session opened. Delegates, we resume discussion on border disputes. The floor to Chancellor Kiroth. Kiroth leaned forward, his scaled form gleaming under the light. His tongue flickered briefly before he began. The Circuith Dominion has observed repeated human incursions near the rim. Their ships skulk where they do not belong. I submit that this proves what I said yesterday. They are unfit for membership, dangerous even in proximity. The chamber filled with approving murmurs. Ilara braced herself to respond, her hand poised above the podium's controls. She never spoke the words. The ceiling trembled. A low rumble rolled through the chamber like distant thunder. For a heartbeat, confusion replaced debate. Then the world split apart. A detonation roared beneath the marble floor, hurling entire platforms into the air. Fragments of stone and alloy tore through the chamber as screams echoed against the dome. Ilara's platform lurched violently, buckling beneath her feet. Down, her aide barked, shoving her flat against the railing as shards whistled overhead. His calm, clipped tone carried through the chaos, grounding her even as the chamber dissolved into panic. Smoke filled the air, acrid and thick. Delegates scrambled, some leaping from collapsing platforms into flight fields, others crushed under debris. Security drones descended from ceiling alcoves, only to be cut down instantly by streaks of plasma fire. Figures in dark armor stormed through ruptured doors, rifles barking controlled bursts. Their helmets bore no insignia, but their precision was unmistakable. These were no raiders. They moved like professionals. Ilara pulled herself upright, heart hammering. We have to move. Her aide was already ahead, scanning exits, eyes sharp as blades. This way. He guided her toward a shattered service passage along the chamber's edge. A blast had torn it open, spilling cables and twisted plating into the hall. Behind them, more explosions rolled across the chamber. Ilara risked a glance back. Through the haze, she saw Kiroth. He stood untouched on his podium, the smoke swirling around him like stagecraft. His expression was not fear, it was satisfaction. He was watching her. The realization stabbed through her chest. He knew. A plasma bolt cracked against the wall beside her, showering sparks. She stumbled forward, ducking low as her aide returned fire with a sidearm pulled from nowhere. His movements were too precise, his aim unerring. Two attackers dropped instantly, their armor smoking. "Where did you?" she started. "Keep moving." His tone left no space for questions. They plunged into the service corridor. The air was hot, tasting of metal and ozone. Emergency strobes cast frantic shadows across the walls. Behind them, heavy boots hammered closer. Ilara's breath came fast. "Who are they?" "Not pirates," he said. "Not random. Too disciplined." The chase tightened. A cluster of drones zipped into the corridor, their optics glowing crimson. Her aide shoved her against the wall, snapped off 3 shots, and each drone shattered in a burst of sparks. Ilara forced herself onward, lungs burning. Every instinct screamed that this was deliberate, a strike at the heart of the galaxy's most sacred hall. And someone wanted humanity to take the blame. They reached a junction. Her aide scanned both paths, then pulled her down the left passage. "Maintenance access. Leads to archives." Voices echoed behind them, guttural commands in a tongue she didn't recognize. Mercenaries. They were being herded. A panel slid open ahead. A group of survivors stumbled out, an insectoid delegate with fractured mandibles, 2 aides from the Vayari delegation, their silk-like garments torn and bloodied. They froze at the sight of Ilara. "You," the insectoid rasped. "Humans. This is your doing." Ilara raised her hands. "Listen to me." Another explosion cut her off, shaking the corridor. Dust rained from overhead. Her aide stepped between them, weapon steady, eyes cold. "Argue later. Survive first." The group hesitated, then fell in with them. They pushed through the flickering corridor, alarms wailing overhead. Another drone swarmed from the ceiling. Ilara ducked instinctively, but her aide fired before she even registered the threat. The precision was unnerving. The aliens in their group exchanged uneasy glances. They burst into the archive wing, its towering shelves of data crystals half collapsed. Emergency lights painted everything in a blood-red hue. "Seal the doors," Ilara ordered. Her aide slammed a hand against a panel. Locks engaged, heavy shutters grinding into place. For now, they had a moment. Ilara bent over a console, her hands shaking as she accessed emergency channels. Fragments of encrypted chatter crackled across the screen. What she saw drained the blood from her face. These codes, their council security overrides. The survivors stared at her. She continued, voice tight. "These attackers aren't raiders. They had inside clearance." The insectoid delegate hissed. "You see, who else could corrupt the council but your kind? Humans are." "No," Ilara snapped, louder than she intended. She forced herself steady. "Look at their weapons, their discipline. This isn't us. Someone staged this." Her aide's voice cut through the tension. Measured. Unnervingly certain. "They'll blame you. That's the plan." Ilara turned toward him, chest tight. "And you know this how?" His expression didn't change. "Because I've seen it before." The chamber fell silent. Smoke curled through the shattered shelves, the alarms still screaming in the distance. For the first time, Ilara realized that the man beside her was not simply a quiet protector. He was something else entirely, and the others knew it too. The insectoid delegate muttered low, clicking mandibles sharp with suspicion. "Not just a diplomat's aide." Ilara ignored the jab, focusing on the screen. One final transmission scrolled across, a voice-coded announcement broadcast through the Spire's systems. Chancellor Karotha's voice. "Delegates, the truth is clear. Humanity has brought war into our most sacred hall. Their ambassador leads the attack even now. I call upon you all, unite against this threat before it consumes us." The words echoed in Ilara's skull like a death sentence. She looked at her aide. For the first time, he met her eyes fully. "Now," he said softly, "they'll hunt you." The archive chamber smelled of scorched wiring and burned insulation. Red emergency lights washed the vaulted shelves of data crystals in a sickly glow. Dust hung thick in the air, every breath sharp with ash. Ilara steadied herself at the central console, forcing her hands to stop trembling. She had spoken before thousands without faltering, had faced down ridicule from alien empires. But this was different. One wrong move here meant extinction for her species. Her aide stood at the sealed doors, weapon raised, eyes fixed on the corridor beyond. He didn't fidget, didn't breathe heavily, didn't even blink for long stretches. Watching him, Ilara wondered, not for the first time, if he ever felt fear at all. The surviving delegates huddled close to the walls. The insectoid scholar from the council session tapped its fractured mandibles together, a nervous staccato that filled the silence. The two Veari aides whispered in their soft, clicking language, their eyes darting between Ilara and her bodyguard. Suspicion hung in the room like smoke. Ilara broke the silence. Karotha's broadcast paints us as the aggressors. If the council believes him, Earth will be sanctioned, maybe worse. I need proof of who's really behind this. The insectoid delegate snapped its mandibles. Proof? The evidence is your own brutality. Your bodyguard slaughters like a predator. Even now, his hands drip with blood. Her aide glanced back once, impassive. Alive because of it. Ilara cut in before the argument grew teeth. Enough. Fighting each other is exactly what our enemies want. She pulled up the console's emergency logs. Fragments of corrupted transmissions scrolled past, distress calls, panicked cries, coded directives. She isolated one set of signals. The codes were unmistakable, council clearance channels. Her throat tightened. Here. Look at this. Whoever staged the attack used internal security overrides. Those codes don't come from pirates. They come from someone inside this station. The Veari aides leaned closer, their translucent skin reflecting the crimson light. One whispered, voice thin and tremulous. If that is true, then Chancellor Karotha's speech was prepared. He accused you before any investigation. Ilara nodded grimly. Because he orchestrated this. He wants humanity framed. The insectoid delegate hissed. Or perhaps you hacked those records yourself. Her patience frayed. If I had that kind of access, do you think I'd be hiding here in the dark while mercenaries scour the station? The delegate clicked angrily but fell silent. Her aide finally spoke, his voice quiet, certain. They'll never believe you. Evidence means little. Fear, though. Fear changes everything. Ilara turned sharply. Fear of what? That we'll retaliate. His gaze was unyielding. Fear of what we are. You want respect. They won't grant it for words. Only for power. The words unsettled her more than the explosions outside. She had always believed in diplomacy, in careful negotiation. And yet, his ruthless logic tugged at something inside her, something she hated to admit. The console chimed. A live feed flickered onto the cracked display. Council channels filled the screen. Mercenaries storming halls, bodies strewn across marble floors, smoke boiling through gilded arches. Every feed carried the same caption, human aggression on display. And there, looping over and over, was footage of her aide cutting down attackers with lethal precision, his face clear, his allegiance unmistakable. Ilara's stomach dropped. They're already using you as proof. Her aide showed no surprise. Expected. Expected, she snapped. They're turning you into the symbol of human brutality. He holstered his weapon with deliberate calm. Symbols are powerful. Let them fear. Fear keeps you alive. The insectoid delegate's mandibles clattered with rage. You see, he admits it. Humanity thrives on terror. Ilara slammed her hand against the console. Enough. Do you not see what's happening? If Karoth succeeds, Earth will be destroyed. This is not about one soldier, it's about genocide wrapped in politics. The Veari aides exchanged nervous looks. One spoke softly. Then you must prove his hand before the council. Ilara exhaled slowly. Yes. But how? The console blinked again, highlighting a data packet flagged as priority. She opened it. Encrypted logs revealed movements of Circuith warships near Haven's Light in the days before the attack. Not official deployments, hidden patrols, masked under commercial traffic. The pieces locked into place. This is it, she whispered. Proof of Circuith staging. If I can present this to the Council, Karotha's scheme collapses. Her aide studied the screen, expression unreadable. If you survive long enough to present it. A heavy thud rattled the sealed door. Then another. Metallic strikes echoed through the chamber as mercenaries tried to breach their hiding place. The shutters glowed faintly under cutting torches. The insectoid delegate hissed in panic. "They're coming. We'll be slaughtered." Her aide raised his weapon. "They won't reach you." His calm was chilling. He spoke as though death was a routine task, not a looming threat. Ilara closed the console, pocketing the crystal drive. Her fingers tightened around it until the edges bit into her skin. This shard of data was all that stood between her people and annihilation. Another blow shook the door. Sparks showered the floor. Ilara turned to the survivors. "Listen to me. Karoth wants the galaxy convinced that humanity is a threat. If you believe that, you may as well open the door and hand me over. But if you want the truth, then stay quiet, stay alive, and follow me when the chance comes." The Vayari aides nodded hesitantly. Even the insectoid delegate, though still glaring, made no move to resist. Her aide adjusted his stance, weapon steady. "They'll breach in less than a minute. We can't hold this position." Ilara's pulse quickened. "Then we move before they trap us. Where's our best chance?" He glanced toward the ceiling. "Maintenance shafts. Lead to the upper tiers. Risky, but better than dying here." The torches outside shrieked, molten metal dripping through seams in the door. The survivors flinched. Ilara drew herself tall despite the fear tightening her chest. "Then we climb." Her aide's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile, more a grim approval. He holstered his weapon briefly, hauled down a damaged panel, and revealed a narrow shaft twisting upward into darkness. He gestured for her to go first. Ilara hesitated, staring at the endless climb. Behind her, sparks showered as the door split under pressure. Ahead of her, a black tunnel stretched into uncertainty. She tightened her grip on the crystal drive, breathed once, and pulled herself up into the dark. Her aide followed close behind, his movements silent, precise, like a shadow rising with her. The maintenance shaft was narrow, the air stale with dust and old lubricant. Metal rungs bit into Ilara's palms as she pulled herself higher, every breath sharp in her chest. The sound of sparks below, mercenaries tearing into the archive, faded as she climbed, but tension only tightened its grip. Each rung was a prayer that the shaft remained unguarded. Her aide climbed directly beneath her, silent, unstraining. Even in the claustrophobic tunnel, his presence radiated a controlled energy, like a blade sheathed but waiting. The insectoid delegate scraped the walls with its spindly limbs as it climbed. Behind it, the Vayari aides moved with surprising agility, their translucent bodies catching glimmers of red emergency light. Every creak of metal threatened to betray their ascent. They emerged at last into a maintenance junction, where 4 shafts branched off. The air here smelled faintly of ozone. A low hum pulsed through the walls, the vibration of the station's massive energy conduits. Ilara pulled herself onto the grated floor and crouched. "Where does this lead?" Her aide pointed upward through the largest shaft. "Central promenade. Crowded, wide visibility. Dangerous. But also our best route to transmit your data." The insectoid delegate hissed softly. "And into the open jaws of hunters." Madness. The aide's gaze didn't waver. "Stay or follow. Your choice." Before Ilara could speak, the shaft below rang with metallic clangs. Mercenaries. Their heavy boots thudded as they began climbing. No time to argue. Ilara nodded sharply. "We go." They scrambled upward. The shaft funneled into a vertical climb lit faintly by strips of failing emergency lights. The sound of pursuit grew louder. Halfway up, the first mercenary emerged below, rifle slung across his chest. His helmet's visor glowed red as it locked onto them. "Targets sighted." His voice echoed harshly in the shaft. Gunfire erupted, bullets screaming off the metal walls. The Vayari aides shrieked, flattening themselves against the rungs. Ilara clung tighter. Panic clawed at her throat. One shot, one ricochet, and the climb was over. Her aide didn't hesitate. He dropped one hand from the ladder, drew his sidearm, and fired downward without even looking. 3 shots, clean, deliberate. The mercenary below spasmed and fell, his body tumbling into the darkness with a fading scream. Ilara blinked at the precision. He hadn't even aimed in the conventional sense, just knew. The aide holstered the pistol and resumed climbing as if nothing had happened. Keep moving. By the time they reached the top, Ilara's muscles burned, her throat raw from sucking in recycled air. She shoved aside the maintenance hatch and crawled out into blinding light. The promenade stretched vast and cavernous, a boulevard of shattered glass and overturned kiosks. Smoke drifted in lazy clouds, lit by the glow of holographic billboards still flickering absurd advertisements. Luxury goods, vacation worlds, amidst carnage. Bodies lay scattered across polished marble floors, alien dignitaries trampled in the chaos. Mercenaries prowled in hunting packs, their armor marked with no insignia. Ilara's chest tightened at the sight. This was no random raid, it was a performance. Every corpse, every broken spire, was theater designed to feed the council's fear. Her aide crouched low beside her, scanning. Transmitter hubs 2 levels up. We cut across, then climb again. She glanced at the mercenaries. At least a dozen between them and the next stairwell. How? We'll be torn apart. For the first time, he met her gaze fully. You wanted truth delivered. I'll clear the way. Before she could protest, he slipped from cover and strode into the open. The mercenaries spotted him instantly. Shouts rose, rifles swung, and then the killing began. He moved with speed that defied sense, weaving through gunfire as though he saw the trajectories before they came. His sidearm barked precise shots, every squeeze of the trigger another soldier down. He flowed forward, seizing a rifle mid-swing, snapping the wielder's neck with brutal efficiency before turning the weapon on its comrades. Ilara watched in stunned silence. This was not a bodyguard. This was war given flesh. The mercenaries tried to regroup, to flank him, but he anticipated every angle. A knife flashed from his belt, arcing through smoke to bury itself in a throat. He rolled under fire, came up inside a soldier's guard, and drove his elbow into the man's visor until it cracked like glass. In less than a minute, the promenade was silent save for the crackle of burning debris. 12 mercenaries lay broken. Her aide stood unscathed, reloading with methodical calm. The survivors behind Ilara stared wide-eyed. The insectoid delegate's mandibles twitched soundlessly. The Veari aide shrank back, whispering in terrified awe. Ilara forced herself to move, stepping out from cover. Her legs trembled, not from exertion, but from what she had just witnessed. You. Her voice faltered. What are you? He looked at her, eyes steady, voice quiet. What you needed. It wasn't an answer. It was a verdict. They pressed on across the promenade. Every step was littered with shattered glass, crunching underfoot like brittle bones. Ilara clutched the crystal drive inside her jacket, the weight of it grounding her. Proof of Karotha's treachery, if she survived long enough to show it. At the stairwell, more gunfire echoed from above. A squad of mercenaries blocked the way, barricaded behind overturned stalls. Ilara ducked as a burst of plasma scorched the wall inches from her head. The Veari aides cowered behind columns. Her aide glanced at her once, then charged. It was madness. Yet again it worked. He hurled a smoke grenade mid-sprint, vanishing into the haze. Shadows flickered inside the fog, brief flashes of motion, screams, wet impacts. When the smoke cleared, only he remained, standing over the fallen. Ilara's stomach twisted. Gratitude warred with dread. How many lives had he taken tonight? How many more would fall? They ascended quickly, emerging into a quieter tier. The hum of machinery grew louder, the transmitter hub close. The insectoid delegate, still trembling, finally spoke. He is no mere guard. He is weapon incarnate. And you humans unleashed him. Ilara stopped, turning sharply. I didn't unleash anything. He saved us. Saved you. The delegate's mandibles clicked furiously. At what cost? You think the council will see mercy in this slaughter? They will see only proof of your nature. The words cut deep because they echoed her own fear. Her aide paused at the corridor ahead, scanning. We're almost there. Keep focused. Ilara tightened her grip on the data drive. The evidence was within reach. Yet every step closer made her wonder. Would it matter? Could truth outweigh the vision of a single human carving through entire squads with nothing but skill and will? They advanced toward the hub, smoke and silence closing in around them.